Everybody, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rabbi Yosef Levin. I'm the director of Chabad of Greater South Bay. And I want to welcome our special guest, not such a guest. She's part of a very big part of Chabad here, Rebbetzin Devorah Levin, who is the co-director of Chabad of Palo Alto. And I just want to tell you a little bit of history here. I've eaten cheesecake before, especially on Shavuot. But when Devorah came to town and started making cheesecake, I don't think I've ever tasted cheesecake as good as that. So when Shavuot was coming and it was time to start thinking about making some cheesecake, I asked Devorah if she would work with me and teach me some of her secrets of her amazing cheesecake. And she said yes. So here we are. We're going to get started with making some cheesecake. A couple of things I just want to mention. The recipe link is in the chat, and the full recipe will be published soon on the Jewish Daily Dose WhatsApp link and in the chat. After this show at 8 p.m., there's a major program being offered by Chabad houses around the Bay Area called Unlocking Potential, featuring Elie Wiesel, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, and Adin Steinsaltz, and more. And the link is in the chat. I recommend that you all join at 8 p.m. And just to let you know, this recipe, after we're done with the recipe, there will be some more baking time. So I won't be able to show you the completely finished product, but it'll be close to it. And we're going to ask you to please post your cakes. If you can show it to us and tag us, we would appreciate that. All right, let's get to it. So Devorah, where do we start?
So we start with putting the cream cheese into the blender.
Okay. So I have here 2 pounds of cream cheese. Each one is 8 ounces. So I have 4 of them. That's 2 pounds. Will it all fit in and everything else we have to put in?
It might not, but if it doesn't, just have a bowl nearby to pour out whatever is blended, and then you can mix it in the bowl nearby. I used to make cheesecakes with just a hand blender, but like a food processor or a Vitamix blender makes it extra creamy.
Okay, very good.
Shalom, everybody. I would like to know, where is your daughter-in-law staying right now? Which city?
My daughter-in-law is here in Palo Alto. She and her.
Oh, okay. So she's not far from us. Thank you.
That's why I said she's not such a far guest. She and her husband, Rabbi Zalman, run.
I guess I did not understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Probably, if in other circumstances, she'd probably be here in the kitchen working with me.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this much better. I like just sitting and watching the work.
Okay, there's the cream cheese in the blender. What's next? Okay.
Alrighty, so does it look like you will be able to fit in sugar as well as a little bit of milk?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay,
I think so.
then you can go straight for the 1.5 cups of sugar.
Okay. So we're going to move this out of the way. 1.5 cups of sugar. Do we want to be generous with the sugar or exact with the sugar?
No, I'm pretty exact. If anything, I always do a pinch less.
Okay, good to know. So about.
So wonderful seeing all you lovely people.
So about a cup, a little bit less than a cup.
Cup and a half.
About a half a cup. Okay. And how much milk do you want me to pour in?
For milk, it's 1 cup of milk. What's nice about cheesecake is it's so delicious, and I think sometimes people think it's complicated to make, but you can literally sometimes just dump it all into one blender.
Okay.
Oops.
All right.
Okay.
What's next?
After your 1 cup of milk, we have 6 eggs. You still have room?
Yep, I have plenty of room. Let me put the milk away.
Okay.
Now, what we forgot. What we forgot to do is we always start out with tzedakah, and I'm going to encourage everybody to please give tzedakah with me. If you'd like, there's a virtual tzedakah box, and that will be on the chat room. We always like to give tzedakah several times during the day, and especially when we're doing something like cooking. And this cooking is for the holidays, so we should probably even more important to give some tzedakah, so that it brings it some holiness for the holiday, for Shavuot. Okay, I'm going to now crack the eggs. And of course, we're going to check the eggs for any blood. I check it as I go. So I quickly, there's 2 ways to do it, as I've said before. You can either check it like this, or you can take a look and make sure there's no blood. If there is blood, we do not use the blood part. Some people, my custom is to do the old-fashioned way, which is to throw the egg out. Nowadays, when these eggs are not fertilized eggs, technically, you just have to get rid of the blood and the rest of it is okay. But I grew up always knowing that if an egg has blood in it, you throw it out, so I just do it. But it's very rare today to find blood in an egg. Nevertheless, I open each one separately, so in case there is any, we don't have a problem. Okay. All right. Okay, next step.
A teaspoon of lemon.
Lemon, teaspoon of lemon. So I have a
You have
lemon.
fresh lemon? Yeah, I always like using fresh lemon. I think that always gives it its special natural flavor, but if you don't, you can always use lemon juice from...
So I'm going to do it. Can you see it right over the sink here? Yeah, I like to squeeze fresh lemons. And we have a lemon tree, so it came right off the tree. 1 teaspoon of lemon. I just got to put it in there. Okay, there we go. Teaspoon of lemon. Okay. Next.
Okay, now here comes our half teaspoon, the very original recipe called for brandy extract, which I didn't have. So then I used amaretto liqueur, and then sometimes I don't have that, so then I use any liqueur or any liquor at all. It just calls for half a teaspoon. Yeah, so really any kind of liquor you have on.
Even though this is not an extract, do I still only put a half a teaspoon, or do I put a little bit more since it's not an extract?
So because it's more liquid, I don't want to change the consistency. So I just do half a teaspoon. But what I do is sometimes when I make like a topping and glaze the cake with like a ganache where I whip some melted chocolate and heavy cream, I'll pour a little bit of the amaretto into that. And then when you bite in, you get some real good amaretto flavor. Whether you have the amaretto flavor or not, it tastes delicious. I don't know if there's some chemical reaction that the liquor does. So I always want to just put in liquor. I don't know. I've never tried it without.
Okay.
I've tried it with all kinds of liquors and always tastes delicious.
Good. Next.
Then we got our 1 cup of sour cream.
Okay. What do you use? Do you use a liquid? I guess I'll use the liquid one for this. Is that okay? It's a little more. Should I take it out?
what are you making?
We're making strawberry cream cheese.
Oh, so you need a blender for it?
Yeah. If you notice, those of you who have been here the last few weeks, this is a different part of my kitchen. Usually I'm on the other side of the kitchen, which is the meat kitchen. We're working on the dairy kitchen right now. So it's a completely different view from usual.
Can I try making it without a blender?
Devorah, what's the answer?
Yeah, you could make it without a blender. You're just not going to get that really, really creamy texture. It's still going to taste delicious. I used to make it without a blender. I would just, whip it by hand, like mix it by hand, or do it with a hand blender. But I find that this kind of blender with that S blade makes it really creamy. So that's what I do. But it'll taste delicious either way.
Okay,
It
and
might be
the recipe calls for sour cream. Did I miss that when I was looking at the ingredients?
1 cup sour cream.
Okay, so I blew it. I missed that.
Okay, I think we have some questions in the chat room, right? So I'm gonna, okay.
All right. So the first question comes from Michal. It says, can you please explain what is the origin of the custom to eat dairy on Shavuot?
Yeah, so the origin of the custom to eat dairy and Shavuot, we're going to discuss once we get it in the oven. I want to get the cake in the oven, and then we're going to talk all about the custom and why we're doing this. First, we're going to do it, and then we're going to talk about why we're doing it. Okay? Okay, good.
All right.
And by the way, Devorah, please remind me when to start preheating the oven.
Oh, you know what? You might as well preheat the oven now to 425.
Okay, turning it on to 425?
Yeah.
425. Okay. 3, 4.
How big a pie crust are you supposed to have?
We're gonna make a pie crust we're gonna make our own pie crust today. I always like to do things from scratch. Okay.
But how big is it supposed to be?
Patience. Let's go on. Okay. All right, Devorah, what's next? Vanilla, we're doing that now?
Yes, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract.
Okay. Got that.
And then 2 tablespoons of flour.
Let me just wipe off the tablespoon. You know, it's always interesting to me in cooking that sometimes a tiny little amount, you don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, but it just somehow adds to it. I don't know. How does that little bit of liquor make a difference? 2 tablespoons of flour, but I guess. Okay.
Devorah, Rabbi, the ingredients that you gave didn't say sour cream. Is that like 1 cup of heavy cream or milk, or is that supposed to be something additional? Because it does not give sour cream as one of the ingredients.
Sour cream is apparently right on the top of the list. But
no, it says 2 pounds of cream cheese, 1.5 cups of sugar, 1 cup of heavy cream or milk, 6 eggs. Mine does not say sour cream.
Okay, sorry about that.
And so what I'm trying to figure out is the sour cream in additional to the 1 cup of milk and things like that?
Yeah.
It is additional. It is additional. I'll be honest. I've messed up cheesecake so many times when I ran out of ingredients, and you can't always get it here. If you're looking for the kosher version of things. So I would sometimes just substitute it for something.
What would you substitute
What would you substitute
cream for? I got all my ingredients here, so I'm trying to figure out.
Maybe just put in it's gonna be delicious either way.
Put in what?
Maybe like a 1/2 cup of heavy cream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
And then let us know how it tastes. But it can't taste not delicious because there's nothing not delicious in it. So
Okay.
Thank you,
What's the
Tori.
next step? Is we're gonna blend it now?
yeah,
Or did I miss something? Did I miss anything?
no, that's it. Now it's time to blend.
Now, let me just ask you, as I blend it, the Vitamix, the highest setting is extremely high. It makes like, turns everything into liquid. Do I want to do it on a lower setting, or what setting do I want to put it on? Should I put it on the lowest, on the highest? Do you want it like a blender or better
Yeah,
like
I'd
a
say
Vitamix?
medium speed.
Medium speed. How long should I, you want to give me like a hand signal? How long should I be doing
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, just for like a minute. As soon as it looks well combined, I think you're good. You're good. It's a powerful
It's
machine.
looking a
I think
little
you're
bit
good.
brown on the top. Should I go a little bit more?
It could be maybe uncovered and see. It could be stuck to the sides and needs to be scraped off.
So let me just do that a little bit here. Actually, it kind of feels like what they call in New York a malted. What do you call that here? I don't know. I don't remember what they call that.
So this
A
cheesecake is
milkshake.
interesting. Yeah.
Looks like a milkshake.
Yeah, the texture is very, very, very liquidy. It's very
Yes,
interesting.
texture is like a milkshake. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Good.
different. I make a bunch of cheesecakes and this one's my very liquidy batter, but somehow
Okay.
it works. It's always the #1 hit, actually.
Okay.
Okay,
Nice.
then now's your time that you want to either have pre-prepared pie crust or make your own pie crust, because we're gonna pour off most of the batter into the pans.
Okay, so just a moment. I just want to take the strawberries out of the freezer. Just so I have them ready. Okay, we're gonna make the pie crust. So I'm cutting up these wafers. I chose to use, you said it would be best to use cookies with cream. So I bought wafers. These are chocolate wafers. Now, even though I'm probably not gonna eat any of this, but chocolate is good, so I got chocolate wafers. Okay.
Devorah, could you repeat the whole issue of the heavy cream and the sour cream? So is it heavy cream and sour cream, or just one or the other?
Yeah, there's both. There's a cup of heavy cream as well as a cup of sour cream.
Okay, so 2 cups. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, now I have the wafer box open. Tell me how to make the crust.
So I think your best bet is to put it into a bag and use a rolling pin to roll it to kind of make it a crumb.
Okay, so I'm gonna get a bag. 1 second.
This is a great activity for kids. If you have a kid on hand, you can let them like smush it.
Oh, that's a good idea. Where's the, okay. Here we go. So I put them all in this bag. And we have a rolling pin somewhere. I don't do a lot of baking, but I think we have a rolling pin. It's okay, it's gonna be covered and it's in a plastic bag, it doesn't matter. Okay, thank you. I'll do this. Actually, I'm gonna do it. Okay. Where is it? Thank you. Okay,
Rolling pin, or you could just, use your hands and just press it out into a crumb.
this seems to work.
Okay, good.
Get the air out.
Devorah, I don't have heavy cream. I don't have sour cream. Can I use whipped cream?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I've done the Funyun substitutions when I've always, yeah. So. Wow. Wow, this is like a workout. Is it hard to roll out?
I think this is probably good enough. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say so. Mhm.
Why do you use cookies with cream in them?
So usually if you're gonna make your own crust, then you're gonna crumble graham crackers or the cookies. They tell you to add in butter or some other binder. And one time I bought Oreo cookies and then I realized after that I didn't need any binder. So then I always stick with like Oreos or wafers that comes with the cream and it adds to the flavor
Yeah.
and it makes it easier.
Wow. Sounds good
Yeah.
to me.
All right. Okay, now what do? I have 2 pans here.
Okay, so you want to just press it to the bottoms of 2 pans.
Okay.
I don't know how much you'll have to use. You just want a thin layer, not too thick. But the pan is fully covered.
Do you put any oil in the pan before you put the crust
I would
in?
imagine that the oil content is enough in these cookies, no?
Yeah.
Okay, there's enough.
Okay, does that look kind of, I want to have no spaces,
Yeah, no spaces. That looks great.
maybe a little bit more over here in the middle.
Yeah, if you feel like it's a little too thin, you could just add a little more.
I'll add a little bit more. I know there's some people who want to have the rest of this when it's done. Okay, there we go. And there we go. Okay, now that was easy. I thought it would take a lot more to make a pie crust. Okay, next step.
Okay, so the instructions say pour off the batter into the pie crusts and leave about 3 cups. I never measure. I just eyeball it.
You know what though? I think maybe I'll measure. Well, all right.
Okay.
Tell me when to stop if I'm going too far. I
Maybe
think I
start on
went,
the next one and then let's see how much
I
is
think
left.
I went a little too fast because some of the pie crust came up.
It's fine. It's all right.
Doesn't matter? Okay.
No, it's heavy. It all somehow just settles and comes out right after you bake it.
A little bit more here maybe.
Yeah, you can put a little more in. Okay, it looks like that might be a good amount to save now for the strawberries. Yeah.
Okay, I put this in a bowl. Are we
So-
going to, oh, you want to put the strawberries in here?
Yeah, put it back on the machine. Yeah.
And I'll put strawberries in.
Yeah.
How many strawberries? Is it 14 strawberries?
Yeah, 14 strawberries. It gives it just a little strawberry kick. It's not like an intense strawberry flavor, but you know. If you love strawberries, you can put in 25 strawberries.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Devorah,
Yeah.
I have a Parv Vitamixer. Can I do strawberries by themselves and then just add it to the 3 cups?
Yes, you can. I would say you
Okay,
might need
thank
like
you.
a little bit of liquid just to make it
Right, I was going to ask, should I put some water in it or
maybe
something?
a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
and now do I just blend this?
Yep.
Wow. Same, about the same height, the same,
High speed. High speed.
Can you do blueberries?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I could do half and half.
Yeah, if you like blueberries, definitely.
Okay,
okay,
thanks.
now, I guess I pour it in.
Okay, so yeah, I just gently poured in, maybe just kind of like back and forth motion across the top. And then I use a knife to kind of just marbleize it a little bit. Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful.
How about we do this? Okay, that didn't
Yeah,
come out
that's great.
Okay, we have a few
I don't even
individual.
know that you need to use a knife to marbleize it. I think that's perfect.
Okay, we're gonna put it all in, right?
Yep.
All right. And that's it?
That's it.
You know, you're so right. I mean, I always thought of cheesecake as something that's huge, involved, difficult thing. I think we're gonna wait a couple more minutes till the oven finishes. The oven is a little bit below. It's only 375. So let's talk for a couple of minutes before I put it into the oven. And I'm gonna ask you if you can answer that question, please. Where did the custom come from to eat cheesecake on Shavuot?
So what I've heard, the very main reason is that once they received the Torah, a lot of their dishes, then they were obligated to follow the kosher laws. And a lot of the dishes weren't yet kosherized. And because the Torah was given on Shabbat, they had to wait until after Shabbat to kosher the dishes and then re-slaughter slaughter some animals in the proper way, like the Torah said. But dairy is something that's just readily available. You don't have to cook. You can enjoy immediately. So that's one reason that I've heard, among others.
Any other reasons you want to share with us?
Yeah, I've heard that. A baby gets its nourishment and grows on its mother's milk. And the Torah, when the Torah was given, we as a Jewish nation were a baby. We were a brand new baby nation. And when we eat dairy, it reminds us of that. And the Torah is compared to the milk of a mother for the baby. So it's to give us that, to remind us of that, how the Torah nourished us and nurtured us and grew us into the Jewish nation that we now are.
Very nice. That's beautiful. There is a verse, Dvash v'chalav tachat l'shonecha, referring to the Torah, honey and milk under your tongue. That's how the Torah is. So that fits very well with what you're saying. Any others? There are a few other explanations. You want to share a couple of others with us?
I know that the numerical value, in Hebrew, the word milk is chalav. And the numerical value of that is 40. Chet would be 8, lamed would be 30, and vet would be 2. And Moshe, after the giving of the 10 Commandments, where the Jewish people heard the 10 Commandments, which kind of included the entire Torah, then Moshe stayed on Mount Sinai for another 40 days and 40 nights to get it all from God.
Okay, let's keep going. We have a few more.
I think if I knew any others. I think those were the three that I
Okay.
told our Hebrew school kids.
I'm going to share one more, and then I have a question. On Shavuot, it was a mitzvah to bring 2 loaves of bread to the temple from the new produce, the new grain. So it was the time of the wheat harvest, and the very first sacrifices that were brought from the wheat harvest, from the new wheat harvest, was these 2 loaves of bread that were brought to the temple. So to remember the 2 loaves of bread, it's customary to eat 2 meals on the first day of Shavuot. And the way to make 2 meals very distinct is if you have a dairy meal and a meat meal. And since it's a mitzvah to eat meat on the holiday, so therefore we eat a dairy meal first, and then we eat a meat meal after. So it's 2 meals that we eat on Shavuot. But the question here is then, we could have any kind of dairy. Why cheese? We seem to focus on cheesecake. Why cheese? And I'm going to answer that question after I put the cakes in the oven. The oven is heated now to 425. 1. And there's 2.
So you don't need a bain-marie? Devorah?
Say that again?
You don't need bain-marie?
I don't know what that is.
Water?
Okay, so it doesn't say that in the directions, and I never do.
Good,
Yeah.
good, better.
Okay. I set the
Now,
timer
just
for
to point out that it's 425 for 15 minutes. So you might want to set a 15-minute timer, because then you're going to lower the temperature to, I believe it's 225 to 275. So in 15 minutes, you're
Well,
going to lower the temperature to 275.
I always set a timer. I never rely on myself without a timer, because without a timer, I'll forget. So the timer is set already, and it's right. The timer is running. Okay.
Oh, for 15 minutes?
15 minutes. I set the timer. I'm pretty sure it's running. Right now it says 15, but I'm pretty sure it's going. So the answer of why cheese specifically is one of the names. The name for cheese in Hebrew is Gevina. And when it talks about the mountains and God choosing the Mount Sinai to give the Torah on, which was the lowest of all the mountains, the discussion, and it says in Tehillim, Harim Gavnunim, that the mountains were the tall mountains wanted to have the Torah given on them, and the Torah was given on the lowest mountain. The word Gibein, which is another similar to the root of Gavina, which means cheese, also means like someone who's hunched over. So it represents the low mountain of Mount Sinai, which is a very important principle of the Torah being given on a low mountain, which represents humility. In order to properly acquire the Torah, we have to be humble and submit ourselves to Hashem's will, and therefore one of the reasons why we have cheese. There's a couple of questions in the chat room.
Someone asked Devorah, how do you do a coffee or a chocolate version?
So the way
Did you hear that? Go ahead.
So just like we left over about 3 cups and blended in strawberries, I would just blend in coffee granules. Probably, well, it depends on how strong you like it. I feel like you start and give a taste and add more, maybe like 2 tablespoons or so you can start with. And then for chocolate, you can add either cocoa, but then sometimes you need to add more sugar. So what I do is I would melt a bar of chocolate or melt some chocolate chips and then blend it in. But you can just do cocoa and maybe a little bit more sugar. And
So
again,
technically, if I wanted to, I could have done, when I did the mixture at the end, put in half with strawberries, half with chocolate or something, blend it together, and then make 1 strawberry and 1 chocolate, right?
Yes.
Next year, Mitzvah in Jerusalem. Okay. Another question?
Another person asked, where do you usually buy your kosher products?
Asked me.
Both of you.
Okay. Zora, you want to answer that?
So Pars is local in San Jose, 20 minutes, 15 minutes away, and they're fantastic. They have everything I need, and if I don't, I call him up, and he has it like the next week. So he's really, really someone incredible, the store owner, and they're lovely to purchase kosher items from. There's also Lucky's in Los Altos that has a nice kosher section. There's Molly Stone's here in Palo Alto that has a nice amount of kosher products. And then Chabad actually offers a monthly order from Western Kosher. Western Kosher is a store in LA. They have a website and they have absolutely everything you can imagine. And you can order from them as well for like a monthly kosher order delivery.
That's the list that I would give, exactly like that. And just to add that Trader Joe's has a lot of kosher products, and there are kosher products here and there in other places. Okay. Devorah, can you tell me a little bit about your activities that you do at Chabad of Palo Alto? Can you give me just an overview of some of the things that you do? I mean, we all understand that now things are different, but let's talk about in general what you do, and then I'm going to ask you to tell me how you're dealing with the current pandemic situation and people at home. And so what are you offering now? What do you offer in general, and what are you offering now?
Well, just to start off, because it's a cooking show, to tie it all in with food, whatever we do, we try to serve food. And you know, there's always this joke how Judaism is all about the food, but food has incredible power. Food brings community together, food brings joy. So it's something that has this power to bring togetherness and joy. Food's got to be at the center of it all, and it really makes everything always beautiful. So we, as a community, well, let's start off again with food. Every single week we have a beautiful Shabbat lunch at Chabad. That everyone.
I just want to add to that. Can I just tell you about that? It's the most amazing kiddush and lunch I've ever experienced anywhere. Number one, and number two, to add to that, that Shabbat, not only the Shabbat food bring people together, but it's also holy food because it's Shabbat food. So it's delicious and it's amazing, and there's a tremendous variety, and it's also holy. So what could be better than that? You do a great job on that one.
Yeah, so that can't be replaced at this time. Although we do sometimes sell challah and some of the special dishes featured at the lunch, but that can't be replaced. When the whole community sits together over a Shabbat lunch, over really delicious homemade food, that's something special. So that's something that I'm proud of as a community, how we all participate and pull that off all the time. What other activities? We have a lot of children's activities, like a Hebrew school and a daily after school program for the local children in the public schools. Parents work full time and are looking for care for their children. And they're very excited when there's a program that not only cares for their children and takes care of their children physically and emotionally, but also Jewishly. And their kids come home knowing Aleph Bet and reading Hebrew in just a couple of months because it's daily. So that's something that's very, very special. And we have programs for the whole family. So we have programs for teens and young adults and just the full family and adults and women and men for you know, if we can do a program for you, we do it.
So how are you dealing with the situation now?
So we are blessed with having an amazing virtual opportunities. This is something that, like, you know, go back just 2 decades or maybe even less, and we didn't have the option to meet up and hang out and enjoy each other's company over Zoom. So really everything has kind of been moved to Zoom and Facebook and text messages. It's not the same, but when people show up, it's really, really special, and there's a very strong feeling of connection.
And we're looking forward to getting back together again in person. And I know that there's some talk about the possibility of opening, but we're going to do it. I understand you're going to do it very, very slowly, very carefully, step by step, to make sure that it's completely safe. And I understand that there'll be information coming out about that in the next few days. Can we talk a little bit about food? Well, we talked about food, but I'd like to talk about where you get your baking skills and your cooking skills. And there's 2 parts to it. There's the amazing food that you make that's really delicious, like the cheesecakes and other things like that, and also the presentation, which is really special. So let's start with, first of all, where did you get your baking skills and your cooking skills? Let's start with that.
So I'm the oldest of 6 brothers, and then I have 2 sisters after that. Now, boys love to eat, and they're not picky. As a matter of fact, my brothers also are always cooking and baking and throwing things together. But because I was the oldest, I got to enter the kitchen first. So when I first began to bake and cook, my food was an epic failure. I always did something wrong, but boys don't really complain much. I don't know. They were just always happy. So when you find that the things you're making are making people happy and bringing joy and bringing togetherness, it's easy to persist. So throughout my teenage years, it was always very rewarding to cook and bake for the family. Everyone was always very appreciative and excited and helping out in whatever way they could. So that's really, I started with like 1 chocolate cake, and then the joy that it brought just kept me, I kept cooking and baking, and then it just practice. When you practice, you get better and better. In terms of the presentation.
Before we get to the presentation, do you read cookbooks? Do you take tips? I mean, did you just practice on your own, or do you read cookbooks? Do you use professional cooking ideas, or is it just the way you do it, and it's just yours?
So I'm lucky that my mom has a bunch of sisters who all love to bake. So I have a bunch of tried and true recipes. So that was helpful. I would just call my aunts and ask them for their favorite cookie recipe, their favorite cake recipe, their favorite chicken recipe. And I knew it was tried. And so that was where I always got my recipes. And then as I got older and I got like a feeling for what, now when I read a recipe, I can feel if it's going to be a good recipe. That came later. But at first I just called people who I knew had more skill, and they shared with me their best.
Very nice. We have a few more minutes until the oven will go off, so let's address the question of presentation.
So presentation is actually a pretty funny story, and I see Judy Wachner on. Presentation, again, because I came from a family with 6 brothers who demolished whatever came out of the oven before it had a chance to cool down, I never ever focused on presentation at all. Then when I moved to Palo Alto and I began to help Judy and I think Kaylee as well, and Rebecca Handworker, I don't know if she's on now. So then we were a team and we were pulling off the Kiddush. So when it came to presentation, I was like, oh, we have a pan of pasta, let's put it out. And they said, you're gonna put a pan of pasta on the table? And I said, sure, why not? Tastes good. And I said, well, it doesn't look right. You got to transfer it to a nice plate. And I was like, what? Why? It was literally completely new to me, that concept of having to platter something nicely or plate something nicely, because that was not necessary with 6 boys. But they taught me. And then I saw the difference. I saw how it looked, and I was able to see it from another person's perspective. And I began to focus more on presentation as well. In terms of knowing how to do presentation, my best friend was Pinterest.
Pinterest.
Yeah. But I got my first learning example from Panina and Judy and Kaylee and Rebecca.
And you took it way beyond that. There's always something new in the presentation, always something different. And
behind that comes from. So every year at Chabad, we are very, very blessed to have girls, 19, 20, recently out of high school or seminary, and they come and volunteer and give enormous love and passion to all the activities that happen at Chabad and really pull things off the ground in a way that, for instance, I can't do it because I have children, and they get invested in levels that like they have the time to make things look beautiful. So each year, I'd hire girls. It was more like a volunteer situation. And they would put so much love into things. They really were the ones who were the brains behind a beautiful presentation. And then I learned from them as well. But they were the ones who actually made it happen.
can you tell us a story or two about the impact of food that you saw, the impact of food on people? I know a couple of stories that maybe I'll share one, but I'd like to hear from you. Tell me a couple of stories of how the food has impacted people that you've seen.
Well, I definitely know food brings togetherness. As soon as there's food, people show up. People are happy, it lifts spirits. A specific story of food impacting someone. See, I can share a personal story of food impacting me. I was recovering from something one day, and a neighbor around the block, a Jewish neighbor, knew, and she dropped off at my door a little bag of kosher pastries that she picked up at a local grocery store. And the feeling that that brought was overwhelming. I was just like, wow, it really, besides, flowers are really special, but with food, you can actually sit and enjoy it. So the feeling that I got, I imagined, is the feeling that just food brings in general to community and at events. So I always try to remember that feeling and try to drop off food at people's doors and have food at
the timer is running, so I'm going to do now what? I'm going to put it down to 275, right?
Yes,
oven
and then
is
that
75.
goes for 1 hour.
Okay, and set it for 1 hour. Timer for 1
I wish we could transmit smell virtually.
I know, wouldn't that be nice? I just want to say that I've seen people, you know, in a typical synagogue, if someone comes for the Kiddush, people kind of frown on that. You know, you got to come to the services and you got to do this, you got to conform and do it this way. I've seen how you welcome people to come just for the Kiddush. And there are many people who come for the Kiddush on Shabbat because for them, this is their Shabbat experience. And you can see how they get involved in the Shabbat experience. And then many of those families or individuals who started coming just for the Kiddush eventually have started coming to more things and more classes and have been involved. And they're very much part of the community, even if they just come for the Kiddush. And I've seen a tremendous growth in terms of connection for people, just be able to come to the community and enjoy that food. And that's really, I have to say, that's something that really warms the heart to see that. It's a beautiful thing. I wanted to, I'm going to, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to show what the cake looks now. The cakes look in the oven now. We're not going to stay on for another hour while we wait for it to bake. We're going to share what the cakes look like at the end on the Jewish Daily Dose WhatsApp and also on the Chabad GSB Facebook page. And please, if you're baking with us, please share your pictures of your cakes when you're done. We would love to see that. And Devorah, before we leave, would you like to add anything?
Well, I want to say I'm particularly interested in knowing what your cake looks and tastes like, Chasha, so you'll definitely have to share that with me. Do I want to add anything? I guess I want to say, just talk again about the power of food. Really, what the Torah did was it bridged the spiritual and the physical. So before the giving of the Torah, spiritual was spiritual and physical was physical, to the extent that if Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob, or anyone else were to put on tefillin, which they were familiar with, it didn't have an inherent holiness. They could just toss it into the garbage after they did the ritual. It didn't impact the physical object. But what Torah did was that it impacts and penetrates the physical, our physical world, every aspect of it. And when we take just the things in our mundane lives, our mundane activities, our mundane possessions, our mundane talents, and use it for a Jewish purpose, it completely transforms the experience into something Jewish, something that connects us to God, something that connects us to other Jewish people and builds us as a Jewish nation. And food, which is so essential to a human being, we can't survive without food, is the essence, it's the epitome of something, of how Judaism takes food and transforms it from just really something physical, something that could totally be not spiritual, and when used in the right way, becomes an incredibly spiritual experience. And that's why I think that food is a huge center point in Judaism, because there's power in food. And when that power is used in the right way, we use the food for special food for holidays, and we say the blessing before the food, and we use the food to bring together community. And in any way, in any Jewish purpose, the food becomes completely transformed and becomes part of a mitzvah.
Devorah, I see a cookbook in your future.
Oh, we're actually working on one.
Oh, good.
What is it? What kind of cookbook? Just a general, or is there any specific focus? Kosher
No, we're
food?
trying to pull, it's kind of like a baby, like it's just starting, and it was a dream of mine, but I had absolutely no time to even pursue that. But now with this whole shutdown, it's becoming a little bit more of a reality, but we're just starting to work in it and trying to get like a Palo Alto kosher cookbook with recipes from just women around the Bay Area sharing their favorite recipes. So something very kind of local that'll be personal.
Very good.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I just want to add something to what you said, that there's an interesting law, halacha, that we're not permitted to fast on Shavuot. Most days of the year, it's okay to fast, but on Shavuot, we're not allowed to fast. And one of the questions that's asked is, if Shavuot is about receiving the Torah, which seems to be such a spiritual thing, when the revelation, such a spiritual revelation, why would it be a problem to fast? And the answer is exactly what you said, because food is essential to the person, and the Torah is there to bring together the spiritual and the physical. And therefore, we have to make sure that we bring that into the physical. And when we eat the food, the special holiday food, it brings the joy not just to the soul, but also to the body, and make sure the body's participating in that. I want to thank you very much. Let me just show, I promised to show what it looks like in the oven. With that camera, show the oven. Okay, I'm going to take the camera with me, phone with me. And let me take a look at what it looks like right now in the oven.
Wow.
Looks pretty
It's
good.
still, I mean, it's undone, but it looks wonderful, and it's going
Looks
to
pretty
be
good.
so incredible.
Okay, thank you all for joining us.
Maybe when you take it out, take a little video clip of when you first of all, you don't want to cut into cheesecake when it's hot out of the oven. You want to let it rest. Turn off the oven, let it rest in the oven for like a half hour. Somehow that doesn't shock it. It keeps it from cracking. Then after a half hour, take it out and let it rest a little bit more until it comes to room temperature. Then cover it and stick it in the fridge. Don't touch it yet. And then tomorrow, after it's had a chance to chill overnight, then maybe take a video, cut into a slice, and see how have someone taste it.
That works as long as you don't have 6 hungry boys around, right?
Right.
Devorah, it's 4:25 for a half an hour and 15 minutes, and then an hour at 275.
Correct.
Okay.
And then a half an hour after you turn off the heat, and then
Just
let it cool down, then put it in the refrigerator and cut it the next day. Sounds wonderful.
Got
All
it.
right.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
all.
One more detail. If you want to take it like next level, you can always put some kind of topping in it. You can put on whipped cream, strawberry slices, some kind of, you melt some chocolate and mix it together, whip it together with some heavy cream for like a nice glazed or chocolatey ganache. You can pour that over it. So it's delicious as is, but you can get really fancy with it. And if you want ideas and presentation on how to get fancy with it, Google it or Pinterest it.
Or send you an email, maybe. I don't know if you have time between now. Okay, everybody, I'd like to remind everybody that 8 o'clock, there is a program, a Zoom program from Chabad around the Bay, Unlocking Potential. It's an amazing program. It's really a wonderful program. I hope you'll join. And then we'll see you for future programs, cooking programs, and other programs. Please, you can look at our Facebook page, Chabad GSB page. And if you want to if you can send an email to office@chabadgsb.com, and we'll keep you in touch with all the things that we're doing. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Devorah, for a wonderful lesson in cooking. It looks really wonderful. And Bezrat Hashem, we're going to enjoy it by Shavuot if it's still around by then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All really wonderful people. It's so wonderful to see your faces. And thank you, Shira, for pulling it all off. This is a really beautiful experience.
Thank you very much too. Chag Sameach.
Thank you.
Bye, Judy. Bye, Linda. Bye, Michal. Simone.
Hi, Devorah. Thank you so much.
Bye, Cherise. Chasha. Esther, are you